Welcome to a special episode of Sitting Placebo. This is a little bit of a weird one because I'm going to go over something I've been developing. Now, again, this is not well done. This is a very rough coat of paint that I slapped on something that I've been using in my house. And so don't judge it too harshly, please. But basically, I wanted a local media server. Now, this will go into videos and stuff like that. I'm going to focus on the games here just because games is what this channel is all about. I wanted something to organize my games, right? So when you look at these are all my GOG games. Now, if you go to GOG, it actually says that I have a lot more games than this, right? So if we go to GOG, it says I've got like 1,000 games, right? Whereas here, it says I have fewer, and that's because I've bundled games together. So instead of 1,038 games like GOG says I have, this one says I only have about 900 games. And that's because there are series that I bundle together, right? So like the Ultima series, if we look up Ultima, you're going to see that a lot of these are combined, right? So Ultima 1, 2, and 3, Ultima 4, 5, and 6, and because that's really how they are on GOG when you download them. And so I've kind of bundled them here. But I just wanted a way to organize my games, right? So if we get rid of this guy, and again, this GUI is temporary, so please don't judge it too harshly. But right now you can, thumb through the pages and see what games you have. You can click into something, see some extra information about the game, and scroll through and see that stuff, right? And this, again, is all from GOG, so, the copyright belongs to them. I probably shouldn't even be showing it, but, this is a work in progress. This is for my own personal library. So my hope is that I will be able to scrape all of the games from GOG and Steam and all the other sources, display them here, and then let you filter down to just the ones you want to see. Right now, the filtering is limited to, A, B, C, which, isn't ideal. But, again, rough coat of paint. Keep that in mind. So, that is the gaming aspect of it, right? Right now, I have MS-DOS games, Windows games, and Flash games all separate. But eventually, they would be combined, and they would just be filterable to what you want to see. If you want to see, MS-DOS games, you just tick the button that says MS-DOS games, but by default, it would probably show you everything. So that is the games library aspect. Now, something very similar for movies and TV shows. Again, eventually these will probably be combined, but right now I've got movies on a separate pane. So these are all the movies I own. Yes, I have a massive movie collection. And so you can thumb through and you can see stuff and, click into it and see a description of it, which again, I'm just pulling from IMDb, as well as the rating I'm pulling from IMDb. And as far as TV goes, it's the same sort of thing, right? It's just the TV shows I own. I own fewer TV shows than movies, but you can thumb through them and you can see what you have. And if you click into them, you can see, how many seasons you have and a brief description of them, right? Grand. So the goal is that eventually that stuff would scrape, but right now it is just getting them manually. So basically I've downloaded all those files and then I've thrown them into a JSON little database that holds onto them. Eventually I'd want to have, photos on here. I'd want to have ebooks and audiobooks, maybe recipes, jokes, file sharing. This one is implemented because it's just basic, basic Apache, right? Like it comes for free basically. I just don't have anything in there right now, but any files that I would put in there could be shared, right? And people could download them. And then now that I've logged in as admin, which I just did when I went to that page, you can see my avatar for admin is that cool little icon I made. There's some configuration you can go into, except for apparently it's broken right now because I haven't dealt with that. And then this one we can talk about another time. And Cypherbunk, this is another one that's worth its own video, but it's basically simple encryption and decryption for friends. Just some goofy, pretend you're a spy encryption, which is kind of fun. And then if you go into your avatar, you can actually pick a whole bunch of different icons that I've created. And I made all of these. Again, some of them are kind of garbage. Some of them are good. I'm still making a bunch. But you'll notice that the colors are all the same. Well, that's because you can actually set your colors separately. So you can randomize your colors. So if we pick something, that has like the most colors, let's see, something like... the boot has lots of colors, right? So if we randomize our colors, you can just see kind of how things would go, right? And you can pick your colors individually, but for now, I'm just allowing random to see it. You could be like, oh, great, I like that one, set it as my avatar. Now it will take a little bit because of the way they've got caching implemented. And caching on here, everything that I'm doing on this server is focused on lightweight servers. So basically, I want to be able to run this on a Raspberry Pi, right? I want it to be able to run on something very simple. And I've done all my development so far on a Raspberry Pi 3. And I'm keeping it that way just so that I can always make sure that it'll run on a Raspberry Pi 3 easy peasy. It just has to be able to run Linux and PHP and Apache. That's it. It doesn't even need a database because I'm doing just file databases. which should make it extra simple. Now, the last one that I haven't shown is actually this music one, and that's because it's probably the most implemented of any of them, because I had already written this to do some simple sharing. My kids were going to have a party with their friends, and so I threw this together to make a music player, right? So right now, if you click onto it, you can play some music, and this is just a simple playlist I threw together that's only YouTube music, and that way it's, safe to play on here. And you can use, arrow keys to fast forward a bit to go through the song, to jump, or, you can navigate forward to a different one. And since I'm on shuffle, it'll go, anywhere. Whereas if I switch it to be, not shuffle, it'll go to the next one each time. And then you can search your database of songs, right? You can filter by genre or by artists, or, you can search for it directly, and then you can either add all of it to a playlist, or you can just add one of it specifically to a playlist, which is kind of fun. And then these playlists are actually stored, not in some centralized database, but these are currently stored in your browser. Because the other thing that I want to do with this is I would like to make it so that this stores as much as possible client-side. Now, obviously, if you need to share devices, there needs to be some way to upload things to the server to say, hey, I actually would prefer to store this on the server so that I can log in with my phone or with my browser, with my laptop, or with my TV, and it's all the same user. That's fine. We're going to allow that. I just haven't gotten there yet. But for the moment, that's not something that I've implemented. So again, this is very basic. It hasn't gone very far, other than the music app. The music app is a little bit more fully formed, but the rest of these apps are all very bare bones. But the hope is that this will serve as a platform, not only for a games library and media library in general, but also that it can serve as a platform where you can game on your local area network, right? So here, I threw together a little website. Again, this is not very bare bones, so this is a preview of a preview, basically, so don't judge me too harshly. But basically, this LocalMess is supposed to be something that you can do locally without even internet, right? Now, obviously, you can't scrape data from the internet until you're connected to the internet, but most people should be able to set this up one time, connect it to the internet, scrape down all of their media metadata, and then just disconnect it from the internet and say, hey, you know what? I want this to be offline. I don't want people to be able to watch me, monitor me, right? Because I realize that there's PLEX. I realize that there's Jellyfin. But there's a lot of things that PLEX and Jellyfin don't actually do, right? So I want things to be free and open source. Jellyfin does that. PLEX doesn't, right? Shared experience. This one's a big one. So the shared experience that I want to do is I want it to be that anyone can just tune to your channel, right? You remember back in the day, be like, I'm watching a TV on channel 5, and that has movie X on it right now. And then somebody wants to go into the other room to work on something, but they want to watch the same thing. Well, there's a TV in there. They just tune it to channel 5, and we're watching the same thing simultaneously, right? This will be that same sort of broadcast mentality. Now, it's not actually going to be a broadcast. That's not the technology I'm going to use. I'm going to use WebSockets and synchronization. But it means that everybody simultaneously could watch the same movie. So say you want to get up and go to the bathroom, great, pull out your phone. You don't have to miss anything because you can just watch the exact same content that somebody else that we've been watching together, right? But this will also be true for music. It'll also be true for games. And so that's the multimedia aspect of it. Again, there's partial support for this in PLEX and Jellyfin. They will do, photos and music and some other things, but they don't really do games together. And I want this to kind of be like if you've ever played Jackbox, a party game, right? I want to be able to share bingo, for example, right? Imagine that someone's going to go play bingo at the local church, right? And there's a big old TV in the front that's showing the bingo screen. Well, you just pull out your phone, you get a bingo card, and now everybody's on the same page, right? You say, hey, go to our little local URL and tune into channel 3 or tune into channel 4 or tune into channel, I named it something, right? So it should make it really easy for people to share experiences together, which is my hope. And then lightweight is a big one, right? So Jellyfin and PLEX, they have some features that I'm not going to have. And those are all around having a beefy server, right? So like live transcoding, not going to do it, right? So you have to provide LocalMess with an MP4, ideally that's web optimized, so that it can effectively just be a file server to your smart device. And yes, it does have to be a smart device that connects to it. Now, Jellyfin and PLEX, they're already requiring smart devices anyway because they have to have apps. Mine won't require an app. Mine will be appless because it just has to have a web browser. So anybody that has a web browser can access this, tune in, and share, which should be a lot of fun. Impermanent storage is another one because you'll get your hardcore Plex users, right? And they'll have, some sort of like 60 terabyte NAS that has all of their media on it and is in RAID and is backup redundant, all those things, right? Most people don't have that. Now, it's fine if you have that. It's awesome if you have that, but most people don't. Most people have, maybe a couple of external hard drives, but a bunch of jump drives, right? I want to make it so that you could just plug some jump drives into your server, likely a Raspberry Pi, right? And then whatever jump drives happen to currently be plugged in, you can filter down to currently streamable. Now, it's not, you can still see your whole library, right? So if you come in here and you go to your movie library, let's say, right? You should still be able to see everything, but then you should filter to be able to say, hey, I only want to look at things that I can stream right now. Because maybe you care about streaming, or maybe you're just like, hey, I want to look at my things and say, hey, I want to go to my shelf and pull Aeon Flux, the Blu-ray, off of the shelf and watch it. That's fine too. You can just use this as a library if that's what you prefer. But if you wanted it to be streamable, you could filter to streamable, and then maybe you've got, one or two jump drives currently plugged in. It would only show the videos that are available right now, which is what I mean with impermanent storage. All right, we talked about multimedia, including games. We talked about appless, because I just want web browsers. The other thing about appless, though, is that, how many of your devices are insecure because of apps? Apps are the thing that people can hack. I mean, people can hack other things as well, but apps are a big one. You just don't know what's included and what's vulnerable inside of your app. And you can limit, certain access and things like that, but you have to grant certain access for it to work in general. And so it gives more attack vectors, whereas every smart device has a browser. It just does. And so you're not really adding another attack vector. But I do want to allow Kodi, because some TVs, their browsers kind of suck, right? And so I would like to make it so that you could still use Kodi to just stream media. And it wouldn't be fully featured, right? You couldn't browse the library in the same way. You couldn't filter in the same way. You couldn't play games in the same way. But at least with Kodi, you could still stream a movie, which would be nice. All right, offline functionality. This is something that Plex actually used to offer, but it doesn't work anymore. They've gotten rid of this. And I think it's because they want to be a little big brothery and they want to watch and see what you're doing so that they can optimize their data and stuff like this. Jellyfin does allow it, which is nice. Dual use. Now, I think maybe I should put technically on Jellyfin and Plex, but again, because they require heavyweight servers, it's not really true. So what I mean by dual use is that if your TV is not a smart TV, I want you to be able to just tuck your Raspberry Pi behind the TV, plug it in via HDMI port, and then you can use it as its own client, right? So because the Raspberry Pi will be running a full version of Linux, you can pull up a browser in it and then display that on the TV and use that to access the shared media that's going on. So maybe they start a bingo game on their phone. Great. You could then join the bingo game on the TV. Or you could host the bingo game on the TV, more likely, so that people can see the shared screen together and then they all join with clients on their phones, right? But if your smart TV doesn't have a browser, you can't do that unless you have a smart device connected to it. I want the server itself to be that same smart device. And so that's what dual use means. It gets to be the server and it can also be a client. And then gaming is the other big one that, neither Jellyfin nor Plex have. I put partial here because I don't want people to think that I'm talking about making like Steam live streaming. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about relatively simple HTML games that people will play together, like Jackbox. If you've ever played Jackbox, all of that sort of stuff is fair game, right? So if you could make it play in the browser, then we can use WebSockets to sync all the clients together and we can do gaming. So that's where we're at. Again, this is not very far along. This is, mostly concept with a little bit of wrapper on it, right? Just I threw together a basic scan, threw together a bunch of icons more than anything, just so that people could be like, oh, okay, I can visualize what it is without it looking like total garbage. But I want to make LocalMess basically a competitor with not only Plex and Jellyfin, but a competitor with Jackbox, a competitor with NAS solutions, right? Because that's the other thing with this file sharing is that it can basically give you the NAS that you're wanting. Again, it's not going to be as good as some mega 60 terabyte NAS that's all in RAID. But if you just have some jump drives for things that you want to share, well, throw them in there, and now suddenly, you've got all your installers. Like maybe you keep a bunch of game installers on some jump drives. Well, now you can share that over here for your LAN party that you're going to have, or you can put all of your VM images on here so that in your various computers you can pull it from this kind of pseudo NAS to grab it, right? And I also want to make sure that I organize my files in such a way that Samba is also available. So you could just have a full Samba server where you access it normally, because again, the server will be running Linux. But as far as the games goes, I know that's kind of the main focus here on this channel, and so that's going to be more what I show off as I continue to develop this. But maybe every now and again I'll show you how the video stuff's progressing too, because I think a lot of people are going to be interested in that as well. So I hope you enjoyed. I'm Cynic Placebo. Like and subscribe and tell me what you think of these development plans. Also give me ideas. What are things that I haven't done? What is something that's in PLEX and Jellyfin that you don't think I'm going to include? Or, better yet, what's something that's not in either of those and you're like, I wish it was inside of PLEX and Jellyfin, and hey, I'll implement it if I can. So, I've been Cynic Placebo, and I will catch you guys next time.